In this WrestleTalk news, is William Regal leaving AEW for WWE? Punk's side of the all-out brawl is true, ? And another WWE return is incoming, plus so much more. So subscribe and enable notifications to always on for daily wrestling news videos.
Support WrestleTalk!
Now, this week's Dynamite saw Bryan Danielson and Dax Harwood put on a wrestling masterclass. Their combined in-ring experience used to showcase some of the very best graps going. But behind the scenes, it's not always graps that Bryan wants to talk about, because Dax Harwood was interviewed by Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful and asked about Danielson's proclivity for talking about genitalia. Of course, the Dong Lord would ask that question. He did mention the rumour of Bryan calling fruit tree semen or generally discussing flaccid penises in the locker room. Dax hadn't heard these specifics, funnily enough, but he did say, "I've not seen that headline, but I will tell you this, that story, along with many other stories, he talks about non-stop. All he does is talk about penis sizes in the locker room." Everyone's like, "Bryan, why are we talking about this?" To be one of the best wrestlers alive, you've got to live and breathe two things. 1, wrestling. 2, penis. Somebody who might have tired of all the dong talk is Big Willie Regs, William Regal, who current rumour reckons could be leaving AEW to rejoin WWE. Now, fuel has been added to that particular fire after MJF attacked him on Dynamite, theoretically writing him off from TV. Fightful also did some digging on this, and they found out that talent is of the belief that William Regal's AEW deal could be up in December of this year. This was also being speculated at this past weekend's WrestleCade event. Meanwhile, Bryan Alvarez on Wrestling Observer Live had a slightly different take and said, "Again, I want to make this clear, I have not been told outright that he is gone, but based on several things, I believe that he's gone. He's no longer going to be in AEW. I don't know this for a fact that he is going back to WWE imminently, but this is what I can tell you for a fact. The belief among people within WWE is that when he signed with AEW, he essentially had an agreement where if Triple H returns to power, he can go back to WWE. And look who's that in power. Triple H. And if so, if that clause does exist, that is absolutely insane to have in your contract. And honestly, if Tony Khan did put it in the contract, it must have seemed like such a long shot of the time, because there was no way when William Regal signed with AEW that Tony would have thought that Triple H would have gained any power in the company in the next 10 years, let alone within months. 2022, man. Wild. Sticking with AEW, and yes, the saga of Punk and the backstage brawl continues. How? But this time we've had something different from Punk's camp, which seemingly proves some of their story, as CM Punk shared a photo on Instagram of his dog, Larry, the most important person in the brawl. Because the image shows Larry missing a couple of teeth, seemingly confirming Wrestling Inc.'s report from back in October, which said that the dog had had teeth knocked loose when the door to Punk's locker room was kicked open by the Young Bucks. Now, the report also noted that the vet pulled the teeth a few days later at a pre-scheduled appointment. This whole thing gives a bit of colour to the idea that the brawl broke out when the dog was injured, and this post is one of the few that Punk has made since his suspension from AEW, so while it's obviously really just a celebration of the goodest of boys, it is also a subtle rebuttal of a lot of the conversation going on right now about the brawl. Subtle rebuttal, great name for a finishing move, or a tag team. And oh look, old Triple H is at it once again. Just when you thought there was nobody left for Trips to re-sign to his new look WWE, a new report from PW Insider's Mike Johnson seems to have spelled out yet another incoming return for a former NXT star. And that former Black and Gold alumni is none other than Eric Young. The former Sanity frontman was released from his WWE contract in April 2020 during the first wave of pandemic budget cuts, and has been most notably active in Impact since then. In fact, Young's second stint in Impact was a massive success and saw him capture the Impact World Championship not long after rejoining. However, this whole run does seem to have now come to an end, because Young was effectively killed off on this week's edition of Impact by Cody Deaner. Not written off, killed off, because he was stabbed to death, and he was replaced by Deaner as the leader of Violent by Design. Now, the Angle seems to have written Young off. However, it is currently unclear when he will officially begin back in WWE, and also what role he's actually going to be taking in the company. But hopefully he's going to get more out of it this time, because following his successful run on NXT last time, Young saw very little of the same treatment on the main roster prior to his release, and was one of the many NXT main roster casualties of Vince's reign, alongside everyone else. So hopefully this time around he can get a fair shake of things on the main roster, or maybe Trips plans on him heading back to NXT. I don't know. Stay locked to WrestleTalk.com for any further updates. Sticking with WWE, and while it seems like a lifetime away, at least by WWE standards, January 28th's Royal Rumble premium live event from San Antonio, Texas is in fact WWE's next big event. So naturally, some of the alleged plans for the show are now beginning to trickle out into the wild. Now, it had already been reported that WWE is looking at having Roman Reigns defend his undisputed Universal Championship against Kevin Owens at the show, but now it looks like we may also know what WWE has in store for SmackDown Women's Champion Ronda Rousey. As reported from WrestlingNews.co, Rousey will be set to defend her title against the woman she recently put on the kayfabe shelf, Raquel Rodriguez, at the Rumble. Now, Rousey is fresh off battering Raquel's BFF Shotzi at Survivor Series in a terrible match, so this makes some sort of sense, but also don't expect Ronda to drop the title at the event, as Wrestling News Co. was told that WWE plans to have Rousey as the champ going into Mania 39. Oh, but wait, there is more. Because Wrestling News Co. is also reporting that WWE is potentially looking to host a particular fan favourite gimmick match at the Royal Rumble. And it's not the Royal Rumble, it's none other than the Hell in a Cell. Because now that Vince is out of the way, the shackles are off, baby. You don't have to have a Hell in a Cell match at a pay-per-view named Hell in a Cell. Trips is reportedly planning to host the first Hell in a Cell match at a Big Four pay-per-view since WrestleMania 32. And if true, this is going to set the precedent for the big cage to be used sparingly when the time is right, rather than just at a pay-per-view that was named, rather than people just getting in October and being like, this feud can only be settled in one place. Now, the Vince McMahon misconduct scandal saw drastic changes behind the scenes in WWE, with both Vince and his right-hand man John Laurinaitis stepping away from the company amid the chaos. However, while he was initially expected to also move on, another one of Vince's key players has remained with the company since, that being Executive Vice President of Television Production Kevin Dunn. Now, Dunn was expected to leave or to be let go, as Brandon Thurston of WrestleNomics in June claimed that Dunn and co CEO Stephanie McMahon didn't get on. However, Dunn has remained ever since the new regime took over, and despite reportedly missing WWE's latest premium live event, Survivor Series, it looks like that is set to continue. Fightful confirmed that while Dunn missed last Saturday's show, he is still with WWE, with no plans for that to change at present. And while Dunn looks set to remain with WWE, the same cannot be said for WWE announcer Quetzali Bulnes, who was released from her contract following a bizarre incident at a live event in Mexico. Bulnes, who announced her departure via TikTok in a now deleted video, has worked for WWE for 4 years prior to her release, and is most well known as the host of its Spanish YouTube shows WWE Ahora and El Brunch to WWE. The incident in question came from late October and involved herself conducting an unplanned spot in which she invited a Spanish wrestling YouTuber by the name of Foulback to jump the barricade at a live event in Mexico. However, things quickly went awry when Byron Saxton, who was in the ring at the time, called for security due to not being aware that Bulnes had planned for this to happen. So video footage of the incident in question has been circulating on social media recently following Bulnes' announcement, and seems to show Saxton looking visibly worried and angry. Finally, we're sticking with WWE, and at the recent Wells Fargo TNT Summit, Stephanie McMahon provided numerous tidbits into WWE's future global expansion plans, which have been dubbed Global Localization by Stephanie herself. The plans involve WWE setting up performance centers in numerous worldwide locations in an effort to sign and develop talent from all around the globe. I've heard this before. These plans are far from recent news, as they were believed to be a major goal of Triple H once upon a time while heading up NXT, as he was once believed to be following up NXT UK with similar variants in Mexico and Japan. And now we don't even have NXT UK. And while these plans went quiet in recent years, it looks like Trips and Steph are looking for world domination once again now that they have more significant power in the company. Stephanie spoke of the plans, as you can read in this transcript from Post Wrestling, saying, "International is the focus for us, as we have discussed in the past, but now we really have the opportunity to create what we call global localization, or glocal, where we can create local performance centers with local talent, replicate the lines of business that we have here in WWE, and do it on a much smaller scale, but ultimately, hopefully, that'll ladder up into the bigger product and potentially then creating a World Cup type scenario, which could be fun and exciting." But Stephanie wasn't done there, because she also announced at the summit that WWE may be looking to make another remarkable crossover into other sports ventures, more specifically boxing. Because she compared the boxing business to the wrestling business prior to Vince swallowing up all of the territories, Stephanie spoke of the confusion regarding who the major players are in boxing due to the breadth of title belts in the sport. She said, "Who's the lineal champion? Who's the WBC champion? Who's the this?" It's kind of all over the place. My father, Vince McMahon, who was the chairman and the CEO, obviously had the opportunity to roll up all of those different territories and create one major brand in WWE that has now gone from a regional territorial content play to a global media franchise. Stephanie interestingly said that she plans to replicate that same success in other ventures such as boxing, suggesting a similar takeover of the sports landscape and structure could be a possibility for WWE. I mean, these are extremely bold plans indeed, and I'm pretty sure that would ruffle a few feathers in the boxing world. And they hit quite hard in the boxing world, so just be careful. Don't do it quite the way that Vince did it in the rest of them. Happy Friday, folks. Bye.
In this WrestleTalk news, is CM Punk misunderstood, Survivor Series success, and a shock angle on Dynamite which Ollie will be reviewing.